Welcome, everyone, back to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast. I'm Craig, joined by Jeff. And today we got another kind of trade type episode, but it's more of like, if you're struggling, if you're in a panic mode right now, what do you do? How do you correct the ship? So there's a lot of options you can do. So we'll get into that in a minute. Before we do that, though, I want to throw out this. We used to do this every week over the last couple of years. We did a mailbag episode. It's always fun. We always get great questions. We're bringing it back for next week. So what we want you guys to do, if you have mailbag questions you want us to answer, comment on this episode all throughout up until Tuesday night around 9 o'clock. Well, that'll be the last of it. We'll probably have it, hopefully try to get in well before that so we can have them, but we'll try to get everybody's as much as we can. But if you want to get your questions answered for us as we head into, that'll be heading into week 7. Oh, geez, we're getting there. Check out the mailbag episode. It's always a fun one. Whatever you want to talk about. Trades, waivers, dropping players, dynasty. It doesn't matter. Anything. Keeper questions, whatever, throw it at us. It'll be fun. So that'll be next week. But this one, are you panicking? What do you do? What do you do, Jeff? What do you got for us?
I mean, that's pretty much it. We were trying to think of different things to talk about, and my big one was I have a couple of different teams. 2 of them are doing really well. Yeah. One of them is underachieving. And I was thinking, and I think I can probably hold tight. I can trade. I can do all these things. But I was thinking, if at this moment in the fantasy season, you don't want to pack it in, you want to keep going, but your team is just not winning games at the moment, I really want to know Craig's opinion. If you wanted to hit the panic button, you can blow it up, you can trade, you can do whatever you want. You have one time to try to put together a team that could start winning games and kind of get you there. Take some real risk. I wanted to know what you would do in order to make that change happen.
So you'd basically have to be 0-5 or 1-4 at this point.
Right.
2-3, I wouldn't try to blow things up yet. Depending, I guess, how your playoff settings are. I think 2-3 still, you should be okay. I mean, Jeff made the playoffs at 0-6 once. So it's still a thing I bring up all the time because it just was a crazy year. This was years ago. Now, I don't even remember, probably 10 years ago. But you started the year 0-6 and you reeled off 7 straight and made it to the playoffs. So it's possible. So, like, if you're 0-5 right now, it feels like, there's not much of a chance, but hey, throw it all at the wall, right? And see what happens. So first off, I'll just say one thing. If you're struggling, 1-4, 0-5 type thing, and you have Devin Achane, you have Justin Jefferson, trade them right now because they are no good to you at all. Yeah. You have 4 weeks without them right now at this point. You need wins now. You don't have the luxury anymore. You're not going to get their value, but you're going to get something because there's going to be a team. If you're like a 4-1 team, why wouldn't you try to go get one of those guys and throw them on your bench right now? You might have to give away some players, but a lot of those good teams have more depth. That the 4-1 teams, 5-0 teams have depth that the 0-5 teams could use. So it probably is going to suck to have to do it, right? To trade Achane, to trade Jefferson. It's not going to be fun. You don't want to do it, but you have to. So if you're struggling, I have a team actually that's 1-4, and I don't know how because I have Achane and I have like Kyron Williams and like these guys who like hit on the waiver wire, but I'm still 1-4. I have to trade Achane. Like, I'm like, what am I going to do with this? It's not a keeper league, right? This is a different thing too. Keeper, if you're in a keeper league, it's not that easy. You can't really trade those guys. You're probably stuck. But redraft, absolutely. Achane, Jefferson. Don't worry. I mean, just get usable players. And it's going to suck. I'm sorry. But you need to win right now. Another one I'll just say before, trade away Travis Kelce. I say it every week. Again, I think he's going to be the number 1 tight end, maybe, at the end of the year. But he's not yet, and we're 5 weeks in. He missed a game, sure. He's up there. He's great. But the gap's gone. But Travis Kelce can get you players, get you very good players. So if he's on your team and you're 1-4, 0-5, trade him. Get better players. So those things, throw those out of the way. Those situations, if you have those guys, get rid of them. Get players. I think, though, you got to try some things. So you got to take some chances. And what I think the chances are, it's more of like, you got to go for guys who are kind of struggling, guys who maybe have been injured. I think that's your only path because most likely if you're struggling like that, you probably don't have players to really go after the big name guys who are on the better teams. You have to go after some guys I would probably try to go after Chris Olave and hope it turns around. He's in standard wide receiver 33, I believe, on the year, which isn't good. I love the talent, though. And he's a guy who would be like, you know what? I'm going to go get him. Hopefully it turns around. And you got to try to get star players because I don't think there's anybody in the waiver wire you're going to get that's going to do it. You're not going to get the best players. So you go get like a Chris Olave. One guy I would try to go get who I think people could be ready or could be down on is Jalen Waddle. He hasn't done a lot, but he's on the best offense we've seen in years. Could you see a scenario where all of a sudden Jalen Waddle is putting up big numbers? I can absolutely see that coming up.
I really, really love that pick because we haven't talked about him, and he has struggled.
He hasn't done much.
And you're right. They're putting up big numbers, and with, A-Chan getting hurt, and, they might change it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And I will say this, like, he hasn't been doing well, but he's only caught one touchdown. But, he started off the year like 78 yards, 86 yards, 46, 35, and a touchdown. His offensive fantasy numbers don't look great, but he's still doing his thing. They just have a lot of mouths to feed.
Exactly. But he's the type of guy who's just, maybe the person who has him is just like, he's not doing much and they want other things for him. You can see a scenario, like say you have Justin Jefferson and a team's doing well and they have Waddle, yet you could see a scenario where they're like, I don't really need him right now. I'm doing well, but I could get Justin Jefferson and be great later on. Take Waddle now. I don't know. There's everybody has different players to try, but Waddle's one I would target if I'm struggling, just because he can be a star.
Yeah. And if you do, I was going to say, I think if you do have Jefferson or HN, I think you have to get multiple players for him.
I agree.
I'd probably try to go, and once again, I don't know if what team has these multiple guys, but I start looking for very unsexy guys that are doing well.
Yes.
We talked about it right before this podcast, but I was talking about how well Thielen's doing.
100%.
I feel
oh God, that sucks to try to say to even talk about.
Yeah, if I can get Thielen and Waddle, something like that, or Thielen and Olave, like, oh my God, it hurts. But I think that's what you have to do.
You need to win. We're talking redraft, just 100% redraft with no keepers, because it changes things with keepers. But you have to go for those guys. I think another guy I would just go take a chance on is Lamar. Especially after a really bad week. I don't think he had double digits this past week.
He did not. It really hurt me.
You see? But he's a guy who there is a top level that exists.
Yeah.
He hasn't hit it a lot lately, but it's there. If quarterbacks where you're struggling, maybe you could get him. Depends. That's a tough one because it all depends on maybe that whoever has him doesn't have somebody else either.
Yeah. And the week before that, he was like, he scored like 40. So, or 33. I can't remember what it was, but yeah. So that one's tough. But I get what you're saying. Like, is there anyone else? He's still a big name. Is there anyone else that like in QB that like Jared Goff?
See, it's still Goff. Like Goff and Purdy they're owned in a good amount of leagues, but there's still leagues they're not owned in. Those are the type of guy. Even a CJ Stroud.
Yeah. Those
kind of players. Like if you're really struggling at quarterback and you need something like that, like you maybe you were going with Anthony Richardson, right? And you just lost Anthony Richardson. Try CJ Stroud, go get him. Or if it's Goff or Purdy, those are the guys who really could get something done for you and be solid for you.
The other two, I will say, Burrow just had a big game, but it might be the owner might say like, okay, he had one good game, let me just get rid of him.
Very well.
Good. Or Trevor Lawrence, even though he has not been doing well pretty much at all. At least he has upside. Okay. I would like those other guys first.
It's tough. Like this exact scenario is hard to.
Yeah. Who do you have to trade?
Let's say you need a quarterback and you need a receiver, and you had Justin Jefferson. Go trade Justin Jefferson to the team with Kirk Cousins and Adam Thielen. Just make it an all former. Current Vikings Vikings and the former Vikings. But like Kirk Cousins is what, quarterback 2?
Yeah, number 2 right now,
which is crazy. But no one believes it. And if you're really struggling, I bet you could get him for something because he's not anybody's number 1 quarterback in most scenarios.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of things you got to go after.
Russell Wilson, too, is right now, he's currently number 7, but I don't think anyone really believes.
I don't believe in it at all. Like, real life, I don't believe in it. I think he's actually not playing well. But that doesn't mean it doesn't work for fantasy.
Right.
And that's actually a great one. Like, go after those kind of guys. If you this is like you lost Anthony Richardson type deal. Because, in reality, a lot of the situations, there's a lot of quarterbacks that maybe aren't doing that great, but not a lot of people are hurting you. right now.
Yeah, you could probably waiver wire a QB. I will say, if you had to retool a team, and we'll bring it back, main 2 questions. Number one, and it all depends on your makeup, I get that. But overall, are you looking, because wide receiver might be easier to trade for, are you looking to go wide receiver heavy immediately?
Yeah, that I would go there because that's your most like the most opportunity, the most upside, the highest ceiling is at wide receiver. So you're starting receivers at flex. You have to at this point.
Yeah.
I don't see any scenario where there's an 0-5, 1-4 team that's just really, really strong at running back. It's not a lot of them out there. And wide receiver, the upside's there. That's where you really can get it. So you throw, if you looked into the waiver wire, I would get some of those. You go put those high upside guys on your bench too. Like you go get the Marvin Mims and some guys like that. I
was like Tajay Sharp, and I hate
Tajay Spears.
Tajay Sharp. Yeah.
Another former
Tajay Spears, because I don't like to hope for injuries, but if that happened, all of a sudden you're back in the game.
So what I would do is my bench in a scenario like that is going to be all young upside guys. I don't need these middling. I don't need DJ Chark on my bench. If you're a bad team, I see it in our leagues. Like a DJ Chark, somebody like that, get rid of him.
Yeah.
Like if your team sucks, you know what? Suck with Marvin Mims in your lineup and just hopefully he does something. That's what I would say.
Right.
Like DJ Chark, just
that is for a solid team that is just filling in a gap.
Go get Rashee Rice. Go get Josh Downs. Maybe Michael Wilson gets you 2 touchdowns again. Get those kind of guys. Throw them on your team. Go get Zach Charbonnet. Like, get the young guys that have upside. Your bench needs to be absolutely all upside plays. It has to be. It just has to be. The one thing you got to do then is really try to be active with defense. Maybe you can make up for it in defensive play. Really, if you've just been sticking with one the whole time and they've been whatever, just really get ahead of like the defensive streamers. Look at next week. Look at 2 weeks from now. If let's say the Chiefs were dropped in your league, they play Denver 2 of the next 3 weeks, I think. Like it's plays like that you have to try to get creative to try to get some advantage, right? You have to get some advantage. And we don't play with like kickers on most of our leagues anymore. But again, that's actually an opportunity for you to get an advantage as the kicker spot. So actually pay attention to it. Pay attention to who are they playing and potential like that, because that's where you have to start trying to make up for maybe your team's not as good, like than others. It's not, easy to do that, but you have to try to find the advantages where you can get them. So that's what I would look at, is just trying to play the matchups on defense, because you can gain a lot of points by playing the right defenses. It can really make or break you. I mean, I played Commanders last week. I thought I had a convention, but they went -4. So defenses could kill you. But let's say the Chiefs. I'll bring that up. They're 49% rostered on ESPN. That's one that you're like, geez, like they just got dropped probably because they played Minnesota, but they literally played Denver this week and week 8. That's awesome. So you have to do stuff like that. All upside. Really watch your defensive picks. Trade away guys if you have them. The stars that are injured. You just have to.
One more question before we get off this, and the big question I have for you is, what players, say you don't have a Jefferson, you don't have an HN, you don't have an injured star that is hurt that you can trade away, that is going to come back, it's worth something, someone. What star players do you keep? Say you just have 1 or 2 really big names. Which ones do you not move away from? And do you just automatically say, hey, you have to spread the talent around? Like if you have a McCaffrey. That's one guy I think you absolutely can't. You can't move off of him. He's too good. He has to be part of the reason you win. Unless you get an absolute haul for him, like 3 starters kind of a deal. Yeah. I would do it for it needs to be something really impressive. Other than that, you don't do it. But you could move off like Bijan. I love Bijan. The guy's awesome. The player's awesome. He's going to be good, but it's still Atlanta. He's going to struggle, and Algier's playing. So he has some value, and people say, if you're not able to get like a 30-point week, you got to get multiple players.
Exactly. Bijan could get you multiple players. People like Bijan.
Oh, he's great. I mean, without doubt. What about Derrick Henry?
If you're if you're struggling right now,
I guess that was my only thing. Is McCaffrey the only one you would? To
be honest, at running back this year, I feel like it is.
Okay, McCaffrey's the only one that you wouldn't trade. As far as wide receiver, which ones do you not touch? I mean, I'm guessing, are we doing Tyreek?
I can't trade Tyreek, I think,
Diggs,
because of that offense.
Jamar Chase still, Devontae Adams, or are you looking to move those guys?
Tyreek, I can't move.
Okay.
Jamar, maybe.
I mean,
this is the time to do it if you're going to get a lot for him.
I was going to say, a week ago, we would have said maybe.
And some of that was his, you always see it every time the receiver comes out and says something. He was talking about how he's open all the time after the game, and, he seemed quite angry about it. And look what happens. The guy sets like a Cincinnati record for catches the next week. It's not going to sustain stuff every week. You could get a lot for him. You're in a desperate spot, though. So there's very few untouchables. One thing I think
maybe I wouldn't chase. I think that is a guy that can score 30. And two of the weeks, even when he was struggling, I mean, last week he had 19 targets. 2 weeks before they had 15, and he didn't catch a touchdown, so it didn't look that crazy. But I do think that he is probably another untouchable.
There's a lot of players I would trade. I'd trade AJ Brown all day, only because I don't think that offense is quite as explosive this year for the passing game. And I think AJ Brown's been good, but I think you can get some stuff for him, maybe.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of guys, though. Like you said, I'm not trading Tyreek. Chase can be there. I'll trade anybody else if it gets me a lot of value. I really will. There's not a lot I wouldn't trade. Quarterback-wise, if you're struggling, and you'll say you're a team that has Hurts, or maybe it's Mahomes.
I think if you have any...
Or Allen. We love quarterback. I think we've loved having the high-powered quarterback, but if that gets you multiple starters, I think you got to look at it.
What do you think about someone like Burrow that just had a big week? We don't like. I think I can move off of him, but I start wondering about these guys that just hit and can go big, and maybe that is why your team's not doing that well.
Burrow's tough for me because I don't know if you can get much for him.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Like, you have to have a real difference maker, but
I think it's only Hurts, Allen, and Mahomes that can really get you something.
Yeah. I mean, I think you kind of have to move, but it's hard too, because I know how difficult it is when you're playing a team that is scoring with their QB and maybe you have a bad QB day.
It is. Oh, I have Josh Allen on 2 leagues and I love it, but I have a team that's, I have a team that's good and I have a team that's bad with them.
I have Mahomes, I have Goff, and then I have Lamar Jackson. It is a very different feel for my 3 teams. And I'll tell you, when I hit with Lamar, it feels great.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm losing. Mahomes, I'm just set it and forget it. And Goff, the rest of my
like
team
a Lamar
great.
thing, would you rather just feel comfortable with Brock Purdy?
I would trade. If that was in that situation, I would have no problem trading Lamar.
If you can you still got to get some stuff. Because
I'm not just giving them
on a bad team, like you're saying, that upside's there.
Yeah.
That's where you're like, hey, hopefully. We've seen it. It's just
Well, you have to start winning consecutive weeks. So Lamar is going to be up and down. You know that. I would rather you would have to give value in multiple places, but I think you can kind of get a good enough quarterback, and then.
So all right, I think that's what we got for today. So if you have questions like this for next week, Mailbag Show, get them in by Tuesday. We will definitely try to help out as much as we can. We might break it up into a couple episodes depending on what comes through. But that should be fun. Get some good questions out there, and then we can talk about your specific teams. Hopefully they're not like after this week, like 1-5 or something. Hopefully you're doing okay. It's just a weird year. It's a weird year.
It is a weird year.
So, all right, that'll do it. Talk to you guys next time.